age-old question, should I be a passive investor in something like the S&P 500 or NASDAQ, or should I be an active investor? I think the answer lies within what you want to do, of course, but if you can beat the average or be better than the market in certain conditions, I think active trading can certainly be an edge in a lot of situations. We're going to take a look at a year-long trade in the micro E-minis this year. We've done this a couple of times before. I've done this in DraftKings. I've done this in iBit. I've done this in XLK even a couple of years ago. But basically the name of the game is throwing on a strangle, managing it through an entire year, turning it into a straddle, going inverted, doing whatever you need to do to ultimately get to the end of the year, see how much credit you've collected, and see where your P&L stands. This year, it's been a really good run with micro E-minis. I've thrown on a strangle from the beginning of the year. We had a bunch of chop. We had the war lows. We had the rally from it. And basically the thesis that I had was that if I have the strangle on and we get a downside move, I'm going to be at a better price point than just buying and holding the market. If we get a rally and I make adjustments to never take on upside risk, I can still keep that premium, collect that premium, keep it rolling, and basically just shift my bearish delta where I would have it into bullish delta going forward. I think one of the most interesting things about active trading and sizing it correctly to where you can just roll perpetually is the ability to pick up a ton of credit along the way and give yourself some nice wide break evens here. So this trade has been a really good one so far. It's up about $1,500 from the close yesterday. It uses about $2,800 in buying power requirement, and the SPX equivalent is something along the lines of collecting $68,000. Right now it's marking about a $30,000 profit. And this again has just been from 8 rolls, making sure I'm never taking on upside risk and continuously rolling this thing and keeping that credit alive. And I think that's the biggest key. If you're doing something like this, you can't take on a ton of intrinsic value. You can't let these options go deep in the money, because once that happens, you're basically long or short that product. You're not utilizing extrinsic value. That is one of the benefits of selling options as best you can. So Jamal, I know we've talked about this at the beginning of the year. It's almost right at the halfway mark of this year. And I know you have this on an MNQ, and we both now have an MES and MNQ position. Talk to me about what you've thought about the first 6 months of the year doing this.
I think you started talking about this with me last year, sometime around October. And I'm not going to lie, it took me, even though I've been in options game for 20 years, it took me those 2 months to the end of the year to realize how powerful of a trade this is. The idea of being able to collect credits in a trade. And it does matter what you pick, I think. Again, you mentioned some of the names. DraftKings, I feel like worked out, but I feel like a lot of times you can't necessarily, I don't know how much you can use a single name. And I think it really works well in something like an ETF, or in the case of MNQ or MES, something like broad-based type of an instrument that really allows you to collect enough credits. And again, you do kind of have to find the sweet spot. Like you said, I think, you can't necessarily be very, very in the money with like a 90 delta option or something like that. I think that would be a whole lot harder. It doesn't take advantage of extrinsic value of options. But in general, options are made to be sold, man. And I think, for the most part, we've found those sweet spots within those names to be able to collect enough credits and hold on to this position. And the market has cooperated. I will say that. We haven't had this just hard, broad-based sell-off. Even within the market move up, we have shifted it up each time, shifted up the strangle or straddle, however we want to play them, to try to take advantage of the extrinsic value. So the best thing about it, it's become kind of a core position for my entire portfolio, and it allows me to think about my portfolio in a way that's a lot more cohesive than I would have normally.
Yeah, and really with these types of positions, I think you nailed it. It's a lot easier to do in something like the ES futures or MES futures or XSP or SPX, SPY even, if you're looking at all of the suite of the S&P products, just because you don't have the gap risk. Like even on our worst gaps down or up, like we're up or down 2%. In an equity world, 2% is an inside move every single day. You have gaps up and down 10, 20%, and that's where it can get a lot tougher in terms of managing and manipulating the strikes, because you have that gap risk. We do have global trading hours and SPX and equities coming down the line here, but still, I think when you have the lack of movement day to day in the S&P products, it's just so much easier to manage and so much easier to manipulate. And to your point, like we were managing this thing on the way down. If we can pull up that initial price graph again, but basically the name of the game again is, if you understand how, buying and holding, of course, you're just buying and holding long delta, bullish delta. You are static long that position. You don't have the ability to manipulate where your risk is. On a position like this, you're kind of blending the best of both worlds, right? You are collecting premium on the downside and upside. In a neutral zone, you're going to have a lot more of availability to manipulate the strikes. And we went from the low of the war all the way up to where we are now. And if you pull up the graph of where you can see the break evens, you basically have that ability to just manipulate it up and up. Premium on the downside and move those strikes. So yeah, started with 93 points in premium on this Strangle, rolled it all the way to where we are now. And again, started with a 7,100, 6,600 Strangle. We are now at a 7,800 straddle, but we've turned
Is that where we started? Holy cow.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, started with those strikes, and now we are at a total credit of 679 points, and we're just halfway through the year. Like the total credit by the end of the year is going to be probably double that, if I were to guess, maybe a little bit more. But as you can see, as the market recovered from the war lows here, we were just moving the strikes up, moving it up, and I haven't paid a debit to do this at any point in time. I've been collecting credits every single roll. And I think that's the key, keeping that neutral to bullish delta and just getting as much credit as possible to where you create these wide break evens. Like the break even to the upside here with a total credit of 679 points is at 8,500 almost to the upside. And to the downside, we're looking at like 7,200. So plenty of room, plenty of wiggle room now. And I don't have an inversion yet. I have no intrinsic value locked in here. I have the ability to if I really need to. And the only situation I would deploy that is if we get a massive downside move. But other than that, I think we're just going to keep rolling this. We're 400 points above the market right now, but every single roll we make, it maintains that neutral to bullish sentiment, which aligns with kind of that buy and hold bullish delta anyways. But anytime the market chops sideways or goes down a little bit, we're going to be outperforming the buy and hold strategy just because you're collecting premium and you're widening those break evens and you're using that premium as potential income down the road if you can buy it back.
So one mention and then one question for you, which I have yet to really deal with, but I know first of all, people love this trade. They always ask us so many different questions about it, tons of questions on it all the time. One thing we have done, like you said, we always keep a bullish delta. That's just our lean, and it works in this market, obviously, as we've been continuing to go up. So like if I've had times, and I basically kind of got this idea from you, I had times where we were basically right around the money, but I was still, my put was probably like a 52 delta, so it was fine. My call's 48 delta. I'm not doing anything. Very next day, we come in, calls 51 delta up. Time to shift it up because I don't want that short call to be the one that's leading the charge on this trade, and so I want to have a long delta. But what if we have a situation right now like where we continue to go down hard, and say not hard, but I would say we continue to just go down, and all of a sudden we're down like 400 plus points away. We're long delta still, right? Now all of a sudden our put is in the money. At what point do you decide to shift that whole thing down and get closer to at the money? At what delta would you do that?
It's a good question. I think if you're going to do an adjustment like that, you're probably going to have to go further out in time because you're going to take on a lot of intrinsic value. We're already at 400 points in the money, but we still have a ton of extrinsic value in both of these options. So the more, and this is where kind of that, I don't want to say like finesse, but like the ability to manipulate the strikes completely relies upon the lack of intrinsic value. So if I were to try and move this down, I'd have to probably move it 2 or 3 months out because we're already in the money by 400 points. But if we got a rally to the upside, maybe then, because I'd have less intrinsic value to buy back, I'd have the ability to buy it back, maybe widen it out to a strangle for a scratch or something like that. But in this case, I think the alternative would be, because we already have such a wide break-even zone because of the credits collected, I would probably move just the call down and go inverted, because that is a little bit easier to manipulate when you consider, like, if I move my 7,800 call down to 7,600 or 7,500, if we get a rally up into that short call, the same story applies. I can buy back that inverted strangle. I can move it out a month or two and then reduce it and bring that call closer to where my put is. So still plenty of flexibility. You can really do whatever you want to do, but the name of the game here is to just not pay debits. Always collecting credits is how you compile those credits along the way. And that's the only reason we have this wide break even here. I'm showing my order chains along the right-hand side, and you can see every single adjustment I've made has been a credit of, at the lowest, 30 points, 40 points, and at the highest, 150 points here, 100 points here. And that's how you create the neutral break-even zones, even if you're leaning a little bit bullish or bearish. But yeah, it's been a good trade, and I hope it continues for the rest of the year.
As do I, my friend. It's been great.
Yeah, and if you're on the follow feed, you can check this out if you just type in MESH6. That was the contract that I started with, and then the contract that we're in now is just the M6. So you can see all the adjustments here on the Taste Trade follow page. Just click this follow feed here, and you can look at all the comments I've made and how I've kept track of the rolls. So definitely look at that if you want more in-depth information about this strategy.